Welcome to the Fermented Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Anna, and on this channel, I'm sharing our journey of learning how to turn our home into a homestead. Today, we're gonna be canning up some barbecue pulled pork, and I'm really excited about this one. I was inspired by my sister over at the Fermented Homestead. She made a different recipe for barbecue pork. Some of the stuff that she had in hers was not something that was friendly for me, for my gut. So I'm kind of adapting this recipe, or not adapting it, I found a different one. Found one from Creative Homemaking, and I've already cooked off all of the pork. This was 2 full pork butts. I think it was about 30 pounds of pork. We already cooked it off, a little bit too much. The one thing I do have to say, in this recipe, it suggested cooking 18 to 20 pounds of pork for 6.5 hours at 350 degrees. Don't do that. I did this at 300 degrees for like 5 hours, and it was still overkill. I ended up doing it overnight while I was sleeping. Otherwise, I would have checked on it and pulled it sooner. But this is very well cooked. So don't let that bother you. You don't need to cook it as much as I did. But anyway, so we have about 30 pounds of pork here. So we're gonna double the recipe that we have here. So we're gonna use 4 cups of ketchup, 2 cups of mustard, 2 cups of brown sugar, 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar, 3 tablespoons of garlic powder, 3 tablespoons of liquid smoke, 6 tablespoons of liquid smoke, 6 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, and 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. Earlier, I don't remember what I said. We also need 2 tablespoons of black pepper. So those are the ingredients. You don't need to memorize those. I'm gonna link this blog post down below. So all you need to do is just click on the link in the description down below, and it will take you to the magical blog post. So we're gonna go ahead, we have this warming up. All we're gonna do is we're gonna mix up with kind of the barbecue sauce that we're gonna put in there, and then we're gonna add the pork to it, we're gonna mix it up, and then we're gonna kind of set it aside for a minute, and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna can it. So, one of the reasons I picked this recipe is because I accidentally bought 2.5 gallons of ketchup, and I need ways to use it. And this recipe's gonna call for 8 cups of ketchup, so why wouldn't I? That came out really fast. I'm glad I was prepared. Now for the mustard, I don't know if I don't think we have any backup. I think this is all the mustard we have. Certainly it's at least all the yellow mustard we have. So for the rest of it, we're just gonna use some Dijon. It does say mustard, it doesn't say what kind. Medium. Okay, next up, we need 2 cups of brown sugar, 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar, 3 tablespoons of garlic, 2 tablespoons of black pepper. I don't know if I have 6 tablespoons, but we'll do as much as we got. 4.5, that's just gonna have to do. I'm sure the liquid smoke will intensify in the canning process, so I'm not gonna stress it. And Worcestershire and lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and bring you guys in close so you can kind of see a little better what's going on in the pot, because right now I don't think you can see a whole lot. So let me bring you in close and hang on. So now we're just gonna go ahead and unload, shred the pork. So we got all of the fat particles, well not all, but we got a lot of the fat particles separated out. This one we're gonna go ahead and render separately, so we'll have some lard. I need a wood spoon, this is not sturdy enough. I feel like I need a bigger pot. I'm gonna transfer this to a different pot. Oh yeah, I was trying to get scorched on the bottom. I'm gonna turn the heat way, way, way down to minimum, just the bare minimum. Get this stirred up.
Yeah, it's good. Just add a little bit more. Add some heat. It's missing that.
So for heat, we're gonna add a tablespoon of this.
A little bit of this for flavor.
And then we're gonna add in a tablespoon of this. This is the really mild cayenne Fermented. I have already packed the more heat cayenne that we bought, unfortunately. Okay, there we go. One more tablespoon. A little bit more of that. All right, so I think we got this all mixed up and ready to go. I have this set to the lowest heat possible on my stove. We're just gonna let this simmer for a little bit while we're getting everything else set up, and I'll bring you back and show you the actual canning process for this. So we're ready to load up our first jar. All we're gonna do is fill it up with, oops, spilled a little there, know that. I forgot my canning funnel. Important part, at least for a recipe like this. So we're just gonna fill it up and kind of squish it in here to the 1 inch headspace mark. I'm not gonna be crazy about it, but we're gonna get it in there. There we go, move it to the next jar. Okay, and then we're gonna take our debubbler tool. We're gonna kind of push it in here. I'm trying to do it lefty here. We're gonna push in here and just to try and get as many of the air bubbles out as possible. Next step, we're gonna wipe the rim with vinegar on a clean paper towel. So all we're gonna do is just rotate it around. And the purpose behind this is just getting any little particles that could be on here that will obstruct the seal. And then also is to cut any grease or any fat that could be on there that can also interfere with the seal. So, and the next step is going to be putting a lid on here. I want to go ahead and take this opportunity to tell you about this awesome lid here. This is Forjars. This is a company that reached out to me recently and they asked me to go ahead and try out their lids and tell you what I think about them. And I did. I tried these out. I've tried these out many, many times. These have become my preferred lid. I don't use them exclusively, but I definitely do prefer to use them when I can, and certainly like to share this lid with you guys. The reason that I like these, there's a lot of reasons actually that I like these. These lids it's an American-owned company. They are currently made in China for now, but they are actively, I reached out to the company and I was asking them about that, and I asked them if they had any intention of moving their production to the United States, and they said yes, they're actively working on it. The war and everything that is happening currently is kind of pushing their timeline back just a little bit from what they had intended to do, but they are actively trying to move production to the United States. And then also, the metal is thicker than most of the competitions. The seal on the back, let me show you the comparison here. If you look here at the competition, this one here is the Forjars, and this one is another brand, and you can definitely tell the bond is thicker. Like it has a wider path to it, and I just like them. So these lids are thicker than most of the competitions, and these also, it has a thick silicone, which translates into a very, very tight seal and vacuum seal. I have found that when I'm popping these jars after I've opened them, it takes a little bit more force than it does with other lids. These lids are also BPA free, which means that they are safe to can up your hard-grown or hard-earned ingredients in these canners. They will not be injecting any more toxins in them than what are already there. So we're gonna go ahead and we are going to start lidding up the rest of these, and I'll show you the next step here. All we're gonna do, we're gonna put our lid on top just like that. And then we're gonna put our ring on them. And the way that we wanna do that is fingertip tight. And the way that I like to tell what fingertip tight is I get it on there and it's as tight as you can get them with these 3 fingertips. They're kind of like built-in torque wrenches. You just put them on here, right? You don't crank them. You just put them on there and they're built in. It's like its own torque wrench. We're gonna keep doing this until we run out of our mixture or until our canner's full. And even once our canner's full, we're gonna keep going because we're just gonna do a second canner load if this is not big enough. So we got all of our jars loaded into the canner, and so the next step for us is going to be to check our canner. We want to make sure that everything is in working order and ready to go. So what we're going to do for this particular canner, which is a Presto, I don't know, the bigger Presto, you're going to look through this little vent pipe here. They call it a pepcock or a petcock. I don't know which. Either's funny. So you're gonna make sure that this thing toggles, and then you're gonna wanna make sure that the seal is good. You're gonna wanna make sure it's not too loose. I have one, let me show you. I'll show you in a second. So we're gonna put it on here, we're gonna twist it shut, and we're gonna crank the heat. Hold on, let me grab my other. I have this other one here. I think this was my, honestly, I think this is my newer lid. I don't know why this one went bad. But you can see, if you grab this, you can see it's very small, like it shrank. And this one won't seal. That's why I had to pull it off of this one over here to put on here. I need to get a new seal. I don't know if you can see that gap right there. Let me get my face out of the way. There we go. You can see there's a gap right here where there shouldn't be. So this one doesn't seal. So if you have the Presto, you wanna make sure that you have some of these extra on hand, especially right now with everything that's going on. I get these at Ace Hardware. You can get them at Ace Hardware, you can get them at country stores, you can get them at like farm stores. Actually, that's the only places that I know of. I'm sure you could get it on Amazon, you could definitely get it on the Presto website. Not sure where else. But I will link down below where I get it from. I'll link all the stuff that I was using today down below. I'll link the funnel, the canner, all the replacement seals for it, all that kind of stuff. I'll link all those down below in case you're having the same issues that I'm having. I'll also link the canning burner that I use. This canning burner, it's like a taller burner. It is a taller burner and it's just more powerful in general. I can't remember the exact price of it, but it's worth every single penny. And the reason that I like it, I was gonna show you why I like it, but my stove's dirty, so I'm not going to. The reason that I like it is that it lifts the canner up off of the stove, and if you don't have that extra clearance, you really run the risk of scorching your stove. You can burn off the paint, you can warp it. I've done these before. I had to pay for a stove at an old rental because we didn't get the canning burner soon enough. So if you have the coil burners, you really wanna get the canning burner. It'll really save you money as well as a headache. I think they're fantastic. I'm gonna stop talking. We're gonna go ahead, we're gonna run this canner load. As you can see, we had this turned up to high, and when this thing starts to vent steam, this thing is gonna pop up. After this pops up, this thing is gonna start to spew steam. And then once this thing is really spewing steam, it's about a minute after this pops up typically, we're gonna set our timer for 10 minutes. We're gonna set our timer for 10 minutes so that this thing can vent. And the purpose behind that is that it's gonna push out all of the air that is inside of there and replace it with steam. If you don't do that process, it will not be able to attain the correct pressure. It'll look like it on there, but you won't be able to obtain, you can obtain the pressure, but not the temperature. Something along those lines. I'm not sure the exact scientific details. I just know that if you don't push out the air, you're not gonna be able to get the proper temperature. So you wanna make sure you're doing that. And then once the 10 minutes is up, we are gonna put on our little weight. And for me in my area, I am under 1,000 feet elevation. I'm using 10 pounds of pressure. If you are 1,000 feet or higher, you're gonna wanna do 15 pounds of pressure. And the way that you can find that is if you have a smartphone, all you do is in the Google Maps or your maps or whatever, you're just gonna click on your own icon on the map and it'll tell you exactly where you are. It'll tell you your elevation, all of that kind of stuff. It'll tell you your north, south, longitude, latitude, all that kind of stuff, but it'll tell you your exact location. Sometimes looking up, if you're in a very flat area, sometimes you can look up your location, like with zip code and stuff like that, but I don't know about y'all, but like there is a huge elevation fluctuation in my zip code pretty much everywhere, so it's not really super reliable. You might be able to look up your address, that might tell you, but the quickest way I know is just to click on your icon. And then once we have this on here, after a couple minutes, this pressure is going to start to rise. Once it gets to about 11 pounds of pressure, this thing is going to start to jiggle. And when this little jiggler starts to jiggle, you're going to set your timer for 75 minutes. After that, you're going to want to make sure you're regulating your heat, you know, turn it down just to get it to a nice little sway. Once that 75 minutes is up, you're going to turn off your heat and you're going to walk away. Well, you're going to turn off your timer and turn off your heat, and you're going to walk away. You're not going to touch anything until this stops swaying. This is going to drop down to 0, and then this thing is going to drop. Then you're going to wait about 5 minutes, and then you can kind of safely, slowly open it. You kind of crack it a little bit, and then after a bit, you know, if you open it too fast, you run the risk of siphoning. If the temperature drops too quickly, the liquid inside the jars will siphon out, and that can, number one, just make everything gross and make it so you have to clean extra, and then also it can run the risk of making it so that your seal and or seals won't seal. So anyways, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna bring you back tomorrow when we're gonna pull this guy out of the canner. All right, so it's the next morning, and we are ready to pull these out of the canner. We got all the jars out of the canner. I don't know if you can tell, but we did have some seepage on this. My burner has a very hard time regulating heat, and it constantly fluctuates. It goes up and down and up and down. And so throughout that canning process, it went up to like 14 pounds of pressure and then back down to 11, probably 7 or 8 times, because the burner has a safety mechanism in it, or the stove rather has a safety mechanism in it. So my burner just doesn't regulate heat super well, and I'm really excited to get ready to move and not have to deal with the stove anymore. It is definitely the stove. It is not the burner. The burner makes it significantly better. It is awfully horrible without that special canning burner, but it does cause seepage sometimes. And most of the time when I'm canning lately, it's been fine. I did 3 batches today where nothing, or the same day where not the same day, but in the same weekend where it maintained temperature the whole time. But for some reason on this particular batch, it did not. And so it had a lot of seepage. There's nothing wrong with it, with the jars themselves. All of the jars sealed. Every single one of the jars sealed, so thankfully the seepage didn't cause a seal failure, but it definitely causes for some extra work in the cleanup process, and it just, you know, it's a pride thing. I wish it hadn't happened, but anyways. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you do make this video, I think I would definitely recommend, if you do make this recipe, I would recommend increasing the amount of the sauce that you make for it. This is going to be a fairly dry looking recipe, so we're probably going to be just adding barbecue sauce to it as we're serving it as well. I would probably, since I doubled the batch, I would probably triple the liquid, just to give it some extra liquid and just to give it some extra, you know, play inside the jar. It's a little bit on the dry side, I would say. So just throwing that out there for you. I would definitely increase the amount of sauce that you're making, especially if you enjoy sauce, which my husband definitely is a sauce fiend. So anyways, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got some ideas and some inspiration, as well as a tasty recipe. If you do, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. It helps with all the googly algorithmic stuff. If you guys are new around here, we do all kinds of food preservation videos, a lot of canning, freezing, dehydrating, fermenting. If that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit the subscribe button over here. This video is one that Mr. Google Pants thinks you're gonna enjoy. This is another canning video brought to you by me, and this is my canning playlist. Make sure you check it out. It has all types of awesome, amazing content in there. So we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.